Alrighty, folks, let's go ahead and begin. The topic of today's web presentation and training exercise is creating your first Inksoft customer store. This is likely the greatest single benefit of the Inksoft technology is the ability to create a dedicated website for any selling opportunity or any client. So I'm going to share with you some tips and tricks and some of the advanced tools through this process. So to orient you, if you're not aware, in the main navigation here, we have an option for stores. And of course, this is your directory of stores. Now you have the option, and typically most people will say, do we have the option to make a store basically disappear from this navigation? And the answer is yes. So you do have the ability to make singular stores disappear, be invisible. They won't display in what we call the store directory. So in the event that you have a very specialized store, or as somebody suggested at a recent trade show, an adult themed store, you could make that invisible from this area, and I'll show you how to do that. Now the other option we have is we have the ability to make a store password protected. So before somebody can enter it and start to really dive into the store, they have to enter via a password. So there's a number of ways to really control the stores here. Now you even have the option to remove this store navigation from the navigation entirely. So let's say that you never want to display some of these stores. You could eliminate this store directory entirely. So you have to weigh sort of the pros and the cons. One of the things that we oftentimes hear is, well, for competitive purposes, we don't want to educate our competition, what stores we are offering. Typically, I would say that the pros sort of outweigh the cons, and letting people easily find your websites through this directory I think is really important. So plus it's an opportunity for people to see your brand, to be exposed to your company as an entity. So kind of creates that sort of connection between Acme Apparel Company, who's my provider for apparel, and who is offering me this value and this service of a dedicated web store. So we have options there, and I just really want to make sure everybody understands their options. Now, of course, your clients can keyword search. So at the very top, search for a store. In the event that you have many, many stores, a client could easily search and find the appropriate organization. So what we're going to do at this stage is we're going to dive in. We're actually going to create one of these Inksoft stores. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and sign in from the very top left, and we'll sign in as an admin. And what I want to bring your attention to once we select config is the ability to quickly navigate to your web stores. And the best way to do that is to select from the Global Settings tab. Notice at the very right-hand side, we'll have an option that says Customer Stores. And there's a number of things that I'll point out in this particular dashboard. Of course, the first, and this is what we're going to really focus on today, is creating a new store. However, I want to point out that you can click on any of these stores and navigate directly to it. So let's say, for example, that I need to go to a store and enter a new product, or I need to change an advertisement or make a modification. I can go ahead and click on that particular store, and then I'll be delivered right to the store controls for that particular store. So quick way to navigate to different stores. The other option that you'll have is to actually go to your main store. So let's go back here to our main site. And from the front end navigation, from the store directory, you have the ability to click on stores, and then you can navigate to a specific store. Now let me point something out. If you happen to be using a domain name for one of these stores, then you'll have to log in separately. So if I navigate to, let's go to Hillcrest Vikings, that operates on a store directory, which is a free way to offer a URL, meaning you don't have to actually purchase a domain name to operate a customer store. So if you look at the very top navigation, it says demo.inksoft.com/Hillcrest. So the /Hillcrest is a store directory. You are in charge of naming that directory. So let's say, for example, you're going to set up an event for a month, and it doesn't warrant spending the $8 or $10 on a domain name. You just want to have a free URL. You can use the store directory to do that. Now, if I click on a store that uses a store directory, see at the very top of the navigation, I'm still signed in. But if I go to a URL or a web store that operates on its own domain name, like photomugheadquarter.com, you'll notice we'll navigate over to that particular URL. I was here earlier, so I still happen to be signed in. But let me go to another one. I think customsoccershirts.com operates on its own unique domain name. And you'll see here, I haven't visited this site today, so it's not stored in cookies. So notice how I have to actually sign in again as an admin. So I just wanted to point out the differences between being automatically signed in and having to re-sign in. And that's based on if the web store is operating on its own unique URL or domain name. Okay, back to customer stores, this dashboard here. So we've talked about navigating to a specific store, and there's two ways to do that. And you'll typically find, those of you that are new users, there's typically two ways or more to do everything in Inksoft. So it's a matter of your preference and your preference really. So I also have the ability to click on Store List. This is an important area as well. If I click on the store list, this lets me see all of the websites I have active. So you'll see here in the active column, these are the stores that are currently active. And let me define what that means. If you have a store that's active, that means that it's publicly available and the shopping cart is live. It's capable of taking an order. Now, the way Inksoft works is stores are based on activity. So let's say, for example, you've purchased a license and you have your license for 1 fulfillment store and 3 sub-stores. That means 3 active stores. So what I can do is I can turn off a store and make it inactive. And the way that you'll do that is you could navigate to the store itself. So I can click on the actual store. And here I have the ability to go to config, and I have the ability to basically go to the store settings option. So I'm going to navigate from store controls through the general option. We can go to store information. And at store information, I have the ability to turn this store off or make it deactive. And that's the very first option that's going to display here. So you'll see store active, and that's selected. Now if I go ahead and untick that particular option, and if I go down to the bottom and I save those changes, we will now remove that store from being active. So what we're going to do at this stage is I'm going to go back to the Global Settings tab. We're going to go back to Customer Stores, and I'll go back to our store list here, and I'll have the ability to navigate to that particular organization. So let's go back to our store list. I think I have to pause to throw a battery in my mouse. I think it might be dying on me, so bear with me for a moment. All right, let's navigate over to the store list. And we can see now, let's navigate to that store that we just deactivated. I don't think I saved that properly. Notice how I had the Facebook option set, but I didn't enter in an admin name, so it didn't let me save my changes properly. So I could go back, deselect the Facebook option, and then go ahead and remove that store from being active. So again, the status column is going to display all of your active stores versus inactive stores. Now you'll also see in this column here, domain. This will give you an indication with a green check mark if a store happens to be using its own unique domain name. So of course you might forget what stores are connected in what capacity, but you can see here there's 3 web stores that operate on their own unique domain names, and you can see those in parentheses here, and you can see those with a check mark. So easy way to determine what works on a store directory versus what are operating on a store domain name. Now I navigated to that particular store, the Aviano Saints, by clicking the actual store. So see how these are hyperlinked, and that will drive you right to the store. Now I want to drive your attention to the left-hand side where I have 3 options. I can edit a particular store, I can configure, meaning go right to the configuration dashboard, or I can delete entirely. So if I want to delete Aviano Saints, let's say I don't even want that store. I don't even want to hibernate it because I will never use it. Now be very cautious of this because this is truly permanent. In fact, you get another message here. Are you sure you wish to delete this store? Warning, this will permanently remove the store from Inksoft. So if I go ahead and select OK, the page will refresh, and we were going to permanently remove that store from our Vantage here. So again, if I click the edit icon from the left, I can go to the store information section where again I have the ability to turn off the store being active, and I want to make sure that I don't have the Facebook option enabled. So I'm going to go ahead and save those particular changes, and granted everything has been inputted properly, I'll be able to go ahead and update, as you can see that message here. So let's go ahead and go back to our store list to make sure that that in fact will display now as inactive. So that's how we control store activity versus inactivity. Now you can see down here at the bottom, we just took the Angel store and we suspended it. And you can see that displaying in red at the very bottom. Now I can jump right back to the configuration dashboard for that particular store by clicking the second option, the tool icon, which is the configuration dashboard. And that's the store settings. So if I want to make an edit, I have the controls to do that here. Now, of course, I can search by stores by alphabetical character. So if I click on C, it's going to let me see all of the stores that start with a C. So it kind of filters those down so I can focus on those particular stores. I can also keyword search. So those of you that, your business strategy is really about creating a lot of these stores, you're going to have the opportunity to do that and navigate easily to your stores. Now, one other option I'll point out before we move on is the option to create a new store. So you can see this button here as my mouse hovers over it. I have the ability to generate a new store by choosing this particular setting. So again, there's typically 2 or more ways to control settings and stores and things of that nature. Alrighty, it's time for the sizzle part. Let's go and navigate from global settings, customer stores, create new store. This is the core function that we're going to focus on today, which is generating a new Inksoft powered web store. So you can see here the very first option in this workflow, and there's typically about 5 steps. And these 5 steps are optional. The first step is not optional, it's required. But we have the ability to make this as detailed and as detail oriented and consider what products would be appropriate for a store and consider what design templates and clip art would be appropriate. So let's start with this. The first thing we're going to do in the adding of a new store process is we are going to dial in the information. And anything with a red asterisk is required. Now, by default, these stores are going to become active. So you can see at the very top it says store active, and that's selected by default. That's automatically selected. So the very first thing you want to do is consider, am I going to set this store up now and make it available immediately, or am I just going to set it up because I'm going to work on it for 30 minutes every evening until it's ready? So make that selection here at the very top, active or deactive. And what I could do now is enter in the store name. Now there's actually a little search engine value here because the store name will display. In fact, let's go back to a page here. And if I go to the store directory and I hover my mouse over a store, you can see how it displays a name here. So Awesome Sauce Onesies and Bling Tees, Butler Bulldogs. So there's actually a little value here. So if you're setting up a very unique store, let's say you're setting up a store to sell, adulttees.com or, whatever the selling opportunity may be, enter in a store name that's going to have a little value to it because that will be displayed to the search engines. So we'll go ahead and give our store name. In this case, let's go ahead and create a store for, let's make up a theme here. Let's do iPad cases. Let's build a web business to allow clients to customize their own iPad case with sublimation. How cool is that, right? All right, so let's put in store name. Let's put in custom iPad cases. And I might even put in a phrase here, like a longer phrase, like design your own custom iPad case online. So again, I want to cater to the search engine optimization value. This will also be reflected in the URL. So remember, if I type in Hillcrest and I use the free directory, it would be demo.inksoft.com/custom iPad cases. Design your own iPad case online. Now that may seem crazy, and that is kind of crazy, but there's actually value to that because the search engines look at the structure of the URL of the actual domain name. And 5 years ago, people used to put archives in a hierarchy so it could be numerical, and that had no value whatsoever. So there's actually value in the structure of a URL. So I'm not going to go on more than that. And here we also have the ability. So from store name, we can put in our store directory. You can also copy the store name in the store directory. So if you're going to structure this and do it for search engine optimization value, well, I'm going to have that reflected in my directory. Now you'll see here, you have to put underscores. And notice this where it shows you an example of the URL structure and then it shows red, which is required. So all I'm going to do is type in exactly custom iPad cases. And I'm actually going to put this in lowercase here. Now you can see here there's view reserved names. There's certain names you can't use because those are actually used in the structure of Inksoft. So using something like Design Studio, that's used. So you can click on reserve names, and these are names you cannot use in your structure. So be aware of that because these are already in use is a good way to think of it. Okay, store domain name. Let's say that you go out and buy custom iPad cases online, and you buy that domain name. This is where you would enter that domain name in red. So forget the prefix of HTTP and www. You'd enter in custom iPad cases online.com. And of course, this is optional. You can come back and do this later. Now, right below that, you're going to see instructions for integrating your Inksoft store with your domain registrar. So there's two ways to do that, and there's a separate tutorial on this process, so I won't dwell on this later, or I won't dwell on this now. You could watch the video tutorial on this process. Our support team would be happy to assist you if you're not comfortable doing this, or I would imagine GoDaddy would be happy to assist you as well. They offer great support. So that's how you're going to create integration between a domain name and the store that you're generating. Now here you'll have options to make a store private. And when I do this, no one can enter this particular store unless they have an account. So an account would be required to even enter the store. The other option is I can create a store password. Now this option requires this password to enter and to be able to access this particular store. So you can even do a range of the two. You could make them have an account to enter a store, but you can also put it behind a password. So if you're really conscientious of who enters this store, you can use these settings here. So for store password, I could just put in test, and you can see that that's going to require that password when we set up this store. And I'm going to leave that now so you can see what that looks like. Now I'm going to go ahead and complete this information here, store address and contact information. So let's say that you're going to open up a unique business, custom iPad cases online, and you want to have unique contact information for that particular store. Well, you could enter that contact information here if you want to. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter in my information here, and I could put in all the vitals here, and you can see that my web browser is kind enough to automatically populate fields here, so I don't have to type in everything. So make sure to put in all of the required fields. Those you can't proceed unless you enter this in accurately. Now, in the event that you make a mistake or an oversight, well, guess what? Inksoft is going to tell you. So I'm going to complete this, and if I do something wrong, Inksoft will prompt me. Now, one thing I want to point out, we have an option for geotag. Now, if you've watched the search engine optimization training that we've provided, you'll notice that you can place geotags in your website. This is a really powerful search engine optimization control. And effectively, you're telling the search engines where you're located, and you're doing that through very specialized tags that are going to be inserted into the source code of the web page. Now that's important because 86% of consumers find businesses, local businesses, as a result of using the search engines. So that's going to give a lot of extra value for those local search results. So make sure to dial this in. There's really no harm in doing this, especially if you're going to be setting up a store that's going to cater to a local area, like Mardi Gras t-shirts. So what I could do at this stage is I have the ability to look up geotags. So if I click look up, a new page is going to preview here, and I can enter in a place name. So maybe I'm trying to cater to the state of New York or the state of Arizona. I can type in a state, a city, or a locality, and you can see here the geo center of Arizona is this particular longitude and latitude. Or I could dial this in more specifically. I can type in Scottsdale. So as soon as I type in Scottsdale, it's going to go in and find the geo target, sort of the epicenter of Scottsdale, and dial that in. So now that that's done, I have the ability here to see the longitude and latitude. I'm going to go ahead and copy. So I'm just going to take my mouse, left mouse click and drag to highlight that. I'm just going to copy that to my clipboard. Well, I can go right back into my store, and I can paste in that longitude and latitude. So now that's going to embed that information in the source code, and I'll show you where that shows up in a moment's time. Okay, great. Now we can enter in a primary username. So I'm going to go and enter in my name here, and you see how you can put in a primary email. Now this is going to be your first admin, your primary store user, an admin for this particular store. So you can create more users later, and I'll share with you how to do that towards the end of our presentation. So typically I'm going to set myself up, as the core admin, but I can add or invite other admins to join this particular store later. So Now, of course, moving along, we have the ability to enter in our social networks. So here I could put in, install the Facebook like button, which is going to allow your shoppers to like this particular, products and your offerings on your Facebook page. So you can actually set up multiple Facebook pages. So let's say I want to set up a unique page and selling opportunity for custom iPad cases online. Maybe that's going to be a whole other branded, opportunity. So I could coordinate that with a Facebook admin. So we have the ability to enter in our admin login here, and that would be your admin name. So if it's custom online iPads, if that's the name of your Facebook page, go ahead and enter that in here. Now we can also use the add this, and this is going to allow people to socially share your product and website. There'd really be no reason to disable this. So you should always use the add this function because that provides a lot of what I call virtual word of mouth marketing opportunity. So let's leave that. Now in the last function, we have the ability to dial in store commission. So let's say that I want to pay an organization a commission. I have the ability to enter those details and those values now. So I can also do a store markup at the very top. So let's say that you're going to create a store for a school and you don't want to go through and be super hyper concerned about pricing. You just want to do a markup. So you can take all of your product pricing and you can mark it up a certain percentage. So let's say, here's the good example. I'm going to give the store 15% of revenue from all of the orders processed in their store. But really, I only want to give them 10%. So what I could do is I can automatically increase all of the product pricing in this store by 5% as a little buffer. So it's a quick way to quickly upgrade your pricing without having to go through and reconsider that on a store-by-store basis. Now, a store commission, again, would be the revenue share commission that you're going to give back to the organization. This is important for our reporting tools. It's going to make the accounting process really easy. Now, let's say that you set up a website and you're going to share funds to a specific charity or organization. Same thing, you could enter in the store commission here, and that's just going to give you a tool to track the performance of orders in this store. Same is true of salespeople. Let's say that you hire somebody to go and set up these relationships, or if you're smart, maybe you go and present, this is a learning opportunity to a teacher. The marketing club of, Chaparral High has the opportunity to solve a marketing problem. They're charged with running a spirit store, doing the search engine optimization, the marketing, the promotions, and you're going to give the marketing club back maybe a share of the online orders. So we actually had a client that did that successfully, and I think that's a really cool program to create a little buy-in and leave it up to the marketing club to promote it, and they'll be graded on that. So kind of a cool little program there. Alrighty, now that we're done with this process, granted we've entered everything in appropriately, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click the next button. And I'm going to go ahead and click next. You're going to see a note here that says this could take up to 15 seconds to process the request because a lot is going on here. So here we have an option that says the unique store identifier must contain alphanumeric characters and underscores. So what did I do wrong here? Let's see, our store identifier, alphanumeric characters. I don't have any other characters in here. So let me go back and just type in custom iPad cases. I'll be satisfied with that. So let's go back now and republish that. Again, if you've done anything wrong, like you didn't fill in your address appropriately, you'll be prompted to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK and let the Inksoft go ahead and go to the next step, which is the opportunity for me to start to consider how I'm going to decorate this particular store. So now that we've done the first part, which is the information, now we're going to be greeted with the opportunity to upload a logo and choose the colors. So let's pause to talk about setting up your logos. So what I'm going to do now, you can see here it says recommended image type, PNG. And a PNG has a transparent background. And it also says the recommended dimensions, 300 by 100 pixel. So what I'm going to do now is I can open up any graphic design product, whether it be Illustrator, whether it be Photoshop. It's a matter of your preference. So let's go, I'm just going to open up Photoshop here. Actually, we'll just do this in Illustrator. So, and this is true of CorelDRAW and also Corel Photo Paint. You want to create a document and you want to put in the sizes for that document. In this case, 300 by 100 pixel. So here we have our unit of measure, inches, points. You want this in pixels. And what I'll do at this stage is go ahead and click OK. And you can see here that I have this sort of green rectangular, workspace here. And what I could do at this stage is now, create my logo for this particular store. In this case, we're just going to do custom iPad cases, .com or whatever the heck it may be. So let's go to a second field here and put in .com. So that's what's going to represent our store. So let's go and add a cool font to this. We'll make this a quick process. I'm sure most of you are fairly competent using graphic design software, so we'll create something here. This is my favorite font, Helvetica Neue Light Standard. So I use this all the time. So let's do black condensed, which is a big chunky font, easy to read. And I'm just going to go make this really large. And of course you can add effects and really deck this out. So we're just going to go through this kind of quickly here because we have a lot more to cover. So there's my my logo. I'm satisfied with the way this looks. So what I'm going to do now at this stage is go File, and I can go Save for Web and Device. Now check this out. I'm going to move this, and intersect that with this green outline. So if I go File, Save for Web and Device, see how this gets cut off? So again, you want anything you design in the inside of this area is what is going to preserve. And let's add a little color to this maybe. We'll just leave this as is. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is go File, Save for Web and Device, and we'll have a new window here where we can choose the file type. So in the drop-down, I'm going to go ahead and choose PNG24, and you can see how we now have that transparent background area. So the color for the Inksoft store is going to show, and the logo will display on top of it. So what I'm going to do now is click Save, and we'll name this as iPad, save this to the desktop here, and we've just created our logo for the store. So now it's time to upload that. So now if we're back in the Inksoft workspace, I can click on Choose File, and that's going to give me the ability to browse for our logo. In this case, we have the iPad.png. Well, now I'm going to go ahead and I have the opportunity to upload this logo. So if I click Upload Logo, the page is going to refresh, and it's now going to display that logo to the left. So you can see exactly how it works. And also in real time at the very top, you can see how that works as well. Alrighty, let's complete this process. Now I can go down the bottom and I can choose to align my logo. So I'm going to center that on the page. Now I have the ability to choose colors to represent my store. Now by default, it's automatically going to copy over the primary colors that you've used in your fulfillment store. So these are the exacting colors that I've used in my first or my core Inksoft website. So I have the ability to go ahead and dial in the details at this particular stage. Now you'll notice in red, please note, colors may not work for the selected store theme. So depending on what store theme you choose, sometimes color options aren't available, they're fixed. So, and there'll be more store themes released, especially some new ones coming very soon. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there's the ability to sort of take the more detailed approach or to skip right to the finish and then go in and configure the details later. So at the very bottom right, we have the ability to skip to finish, which I typically do not recommend. This would be a rapid setup of a store just to skip to finish. What I would advise doing is clicking the next option where you're going to be prompted with more options and more controls. So here if we go down to the next option, we'll be greeted with the ability to start to consider what products are going to be appropriate for this particular store. So I have the ability to disable products entirely. So let's say that I just want to set this up, I want to skip products because this is going to be an iPad case store. So what I could do is I could disable products from copying over to this particular web store. So those aren't going to display, those aren't going to be available whatsoever until I go in and add custom products later. So again, right now we are removing products. They're going to be available on this store. And now I have the ability to go ahead and save those particular changes. And here we have a message. Are you sure you wish to apply these changes? Any products marked for removal will be deleted from this store. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, not to fear, I can always come back later and selectively add products to a store. It's much easier than deleting a product from a store. So we can come back later and be really concerned about product merchandising later. All right, here's one of my favorite parts of this setup process is the ability to go and cherry pick design templates, and in the next window the ability to cherry pick what clip art is relevant for this store. So if I'm setting up a store for a swim club, what design templates would be appropriate? Well, you're right, swim club. So I have the ability to go and choose swimming. So here you can go and really cherry pick the appropriate design template categories to copy over to a store. So pretty important, obviously. Now you'll also notice this. I could select all of these if I want, if these are all appropriate. One very, very powerful function, and this really freaks people out when they see this for the first time, you can actually go into one of these categories and you have the ability to configure these design templates, meaning you have the ability to replace the generic text, which is typically going to be things like school name, mascot, year. You can replace those values so you can personalize a store to a client. So let's say, for example, I'm setting up a swim club, North Haven Swim Club, and I want all of the designs, the swimming designs, to automatically say North Haven Swim 2011. You can do that by configuring these settings here. Now you also have the ability to replace the primary color. So typically, there's a primary color used for these design templates. I have the ability to replace the navy blue with a specific color. So you can see if I click in this box here, I have the ability to choose a color range, and then I can dial in that range on the right-hand side. Now, one thing I want to point out that's a really slick function is you have the ability to actually copy colors from a logo, and you can do that very easily. So let me go grab a logo here. Let's go to one of our demo stores here. So let's say that I want to grab a very exacting color from this Hillcrest Viking store. So what I'm going to do is take a screenshot. Now I definitely advise, here's one of my tips, I definitely advise that you get yourself a really good screen capture software. I happen on a Mac to use something called Little Snapper, and this tool is awesome. It's free. Now if you're on a PC, you can download a product called Jing, J-I-N-G. So Little Snapper and Jing, Jing is for a PC and Little Snapper is for a Mac. But this is an awesome product that allows you to do the following. I can use my keyboard shortcut and I can go and just grab a color or a logo or a product and I can snap that, meaning I'm going to go and take a little screen capture of that, and you can see what that looks like now. Well, what I can do with that little image is I can drag and drop that into Photoshop or Corel Photo Paint or Draw, whatever graphics design product is relevant, and I can go ahead and zoom in on that and I can choose my eyedropper tool. So you have an eyedropper tool in virtually every graphic design software, and the eyedropper is going to let me go in here and sample this specific color, this exacting shade of orange. And when I do that, you'll see a little thumbnail here on the bottom left. If I double click that foreground color, here in the color picker, I have the ability to copy the hexadecimal value here in the very bottom. So you can see it shows a number. Hexadecimal values will always be 6 characters, and they're going to be a combination of alphanumeric values. So I can go ahead and copy these colors here to really match. So the point is, and the point of showing you that, is if you want to coordinate the actual color of these templates with the color of the organization, which is obviously pretty important, right? You can see I have the ability to do that now. So I've just color matched that Hillcrest Viking logo with the design templates for this particular store. So you can see at this stage, I can now replace the colors in the text by making this designation. Now let me show you what this actually looks like so you have sort of a sense of what the net result of this will be. Let me navigate over to Cougars, where I've actually created and name dropped and recolored these templates on an automatic basis. So if I click on Designs, you'll notice from the designed templates, you'll notice that these all say Hillcrest Cougars 2011, and they're all in red. So you can see that immediately, the shoppers at Hillcrest Cougars would have the ability to choose a huge range of different design templates that are already perfectly, optimized or ready to go. So let's say that, Soccer Dad or whomever it may be, maybe they're not interested in designing. They just want to choose a cool design, add it to a product, and then add to cart. You see how that can be an automatic sort of workflow and process. There's really no decision making and thought process, but they do have the ability to customize it. So maybe they want to change the size and the location and the placement. They have the opportunity to do this. So this is a pretty important control and merchandising function, to allow your clients to go in and do some quick tweaks. They don't have to be super creative. Anybody can create a quick theme, and then when they're done with that, they can go ahead and add it back to the cart and then check out. So that's the value of name dropping these templates. In this particular demo, I'm not going to do this because this takes a little while to render, because Inksoft is going to create an actual unique graphic for every one of those templates in these categories. So you can see how that would It's creating a thumbnail, it's creating an actual production file, it's indexing it, so it does take some time to process. So be aware of that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click the next button here. And we can make similar decisions as it relates to clip art. So here you can see by default, Inksoft is going to copy over all of the clip art. What I can do is I can go ahead and deselect. So I'm going to click this option here that says select and deselect all. And I'll select that one more time, and it's going to go ahead and remove all of that clip art from being copied. So again, if I'm setting up a store for maybe a specific swim club, maybe they're the West Haven Bears swim club, so what I have the ability to do is go to the mascots and just choose the Bears. So we're really going to personalize this for this particular store. So what I can do is scroll up to Bears. I can go ahead and select Bears. And maybe I also want to go to sports and I want to go to swimming because we want to copy over that content as well. So I can go in here and grab in swimming. I can also grab sports words. I can do things like grab, if there's diving that's available or whatever else that would be important. I can go ahead and make those selections. I'm actually going to grab the athletic templates because those are really cool. So I can go and grab whatever is relevant and copy that over to the store as soon as I make the selection here. So what I'll do at this stage is I'm now going to go ahead and say next. And we are going to complete this process here. So this is sort of the basics of creating a store within Inksoft. And again, we're going to go and cherry pick that design clip art. Here we're going to be greeted with a message that says finished, setup complete. Now we can do some additional configurations. So the process isn't done yet. There's a few more things that we want to consider. But for the most part, 90% of the work is done. So setup complete. If you would like to perform additional configurations, you can go to the dashboard. Or at the very bottom here, you can go right to the store homepage. So I'm going to navigate over here to this homepage for this particular site. And you can see here is what the end user would see. So we'll give it a moment for, we didn't copy over any design templates, so you see that there's none that display here. And there's, in terms of clip art, we copied over a narrow range. And that's going to take a moment to copy over those clip art files. So this isn't instant. Again, this takes time to publish and copy over content, so be patient with it. But what I'm going to do now is we're going to choose a store theme. So you might not be satisfied with the default theme. What you can do is click on Config from the very topmost navigation. And here we're at the particular store controls. So what I can do is go to Layout and Styling, and you can always come back to change the logo and the colors. And of course, we can click on Store Theme, which is going to give me the option to dynamically change the look of this website. So if I want to apply the new Simple and Clean theme, I'll go ahead and make that selection. And please note that this will be populated with a nice sort of robust library of different themes coming very soon. So at this stage, I'm going to click Apply Theme. And here, if there's any options for themes, you can go ahead and make those selections. So the original layout, and then you can see the simple layout. And the simple layout removes some of the navigation in this particular theme. So I'm going to go ahead and save those particular changes. And you'll notice now that that's going to update. And if I revisit the homepage, that has automatically changed the theme. There's no work to be done. Now notice that in the main navigation here, we didn't publish any products into this particular store. We have featured products, and this is carried down from our main store, but I don't have any products in this particular store. So that navigation tab does not display or show up. So I have the ability to, again, go and add products later. I can feature those products. So let's say that you have a few different iPad cases. Maybe you want to let people choose from pre-decorated iPad cases, maybe one with camouflage on it, another with some theme on it, whatever it may be. So using this option down here at the very bottom, we could have featured designs and featured products. So those are all going to be customizations for these particular stores. Alrighty, let's go back. Now that we changed the store theme, I want to change the advertisements. This is important. Now here's one marketing tip that I'd like to share with you, and unfortunately I didn't come up with this. A client did, and I think this is really smart. And that's the ability to sell advertisement in a web store. So I would certainly recommend this. What if you could get local businesses in your area to sponsor some of these stores and to pay for a advertisement placement? So I actually did this. I went, if you go to Butler Bulldogs, notice this at Butler Bulldogs in the very bottom right. What do you see? You see sponsored advertisements. $10 off at Dick's Sporting Goods. Proud sponsor, Starbucks. Your ad here. So imagine selling a $25, miniature ad that's going to be in a 5A high school web store. Maybe it's for a small local restaurant that's trying to promote. Maybe it's for a complementary business that really could benefit from that position. So imagine if you were to sell these placements, maybe they're $50 each per month. If you sold 3 of them, you could get your Inksoft hosting covered. Now, you may also sell a premium advertisement in a banner ad, official sponsor, sun-dry day cleaners, wear your Butler Bulldog apparel, receive 10% off or whatever it may be. So great real estate to sell premium advertisement and then maybe miniature advertisements. And I can tell you, this is an affordable, marketing position for a lot of small businesses. Maybe it's $20, who knows? So very, very important to set up these banner ads and these thumbnail ads to cross-promote other parts of your business and service or to sell ad placement. So let's talk about these banner ads. Same process that we did before. If I go into graphic design software and I set up a workspace and the dimensions for that, so I'm going to go and set up a new workspace here, and we can do 830 pixel by 275 pixel. That's the exacting dimensions for these banner advertisements. So you can see now it's still a rectangle, it's just a larger rectangle. So anything I design inside of the confines of this particular area is what's going to save. So you might, again, here's where your tool for screenshots is going to come in handy. So I'm going to go to custom iPad cases. And I'm not giving you permission to do this. I'm just simply sharing a technique with screenshot software. I have the ability to lend from some stock photography from certain websites. So if you find some, again, don't violate copyrights. You may not want to copy some of this content from big providers. But maybe I go to images and I find a really cool custom iPad case and I want to use that in my marketing collateral. I have the opportunity to do things like that. So again, using some of the screenshot software, you have the ability to select an image. You can go to full size image. And to me, this is much easier than right mouse clicking and saving. I just like to pull out my trusty screenshot software and snag a screenshot of an image that I need. So I'm going to go and maybe grab this image here, and I can drag that into my design software to use this as part of a banner advertisement. So great way to kind of use stock photography, wink wink, and borrow that stock photography if it were. So I can resize this, reposition it, then add text. So let's create a quick banner here. This isn't the world's best photography, but we'll just create a quick little banner here. Custom iPad cases. So I've never claimed to be a graphic designer, so nobody laugh at me. All right, so let's size this. Okay, here's our basic banner advertisement, right? So remember, you can see that portion of that hand that's outside of that green area. So again, if I go File, Save for Web and Device, what you want to do is you want to save this as a JPEG because this is a much larger image and you want this to load very quickly. So JPEGs are compressed files and they load quick. So we're going to go ahead and save this as a JPEG and I'll save this to my desktop. Now we have a custom banner that we've just created. So now it's time to, again, consider our advertisement for our web store. So let's go back to our main website and we can navigate over to our substore that we've set up. So stores, and then we'll find customipadcases.com. And here we are at the store. Now I'm able to access the store because I'm still logged in as an admin, but I'll show you later if we sign out of all of our accounts and we try to navigate to the store, it's going to prompt us for the password because as you recall, we made this a password protected store. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on config. And what I want to do now is I want to enter a new advertisement into Inksoft. And to do that, you can actually do that from global settings. And under global settings, we have the option to navigate to marketing and then advertisements. And in this particular Vantage, we have the ability to delete and edit all the advertisements that we've uploaded. So here's sort of your gallery or your warehouse of all of your ads. And of course, you can delete some of these. You can see if they're currently active. You can also see what type of ad it is. There's 2 types, a banner and then an actual, what I call a miniature ad or a thumbnail ad. And you can see where that ad is used by what stores. So if you have one ad, but you're using it on 5 different stores, it would display all of those organizations here. So you can see for this custom t-shirt online, design your own t-shirt online banner, it's used in, let's see, it looks like 3 different web stores. So what I'll do now at the very top, you can see the ability to filter. So you can look at, design or banners and ads by store. You could do it by type, and you could do it by status. So great way to kind of see the inventory of your marketing pieces. But what I'm concerned with now is clicking new advertisement, where I have the ability to introduce a new advertisement. So pretty commonsensical here at the very top. I will click choose file, and then we'll go ahead and browse for the file. In this case, we name this banner. We could enable this, meaning make it active. And we also choose the type. So make sure in the dropdown that you're going to select the appropriate type. And in this case, this is an 830 by 275 banner. We can also give this a name. Now this is actually provides a little value for search engine optimization. When you give this banner a name, it displays in the source code. So be very aware of what you name these banners. So I may give this, custom online iPad, design your own iPad case online. Whatever the search phrase and the SEO strategy would be appropriate, you can dial that in here. So we'll go ahead and enter this content here. Of course, the advertisement description, this is optional. If you have a couple hundred ads, it's probably a good idea to, have a description of when it's useful and what you're using it for. Now I have the ability to assign this to a particular store. So I can browse through the stores that I have, and I can choose what store this would be appropriate to offer in. So I'm going to add this to custom iPad cases. I'll go ahead in this stage, save these changes. And we'll get a message saying we've successfully updated. And you'll see the image that you've uploaded, so you know that it's been uploaded successfully. Now this is kind of a two-step process. Now we have to navigate back to the store controls. We can go to customer interactions and users and advertisements. And that's when we can go and cherry pick from the entire database of advertisements. And the way you'll do that is you'll click add more advertisements, the very right-hand side tab, the third tab. So you can see it's in chronological order. So here I have the ability to click on custom iPad cases, and I can now add selected image to the store by clicking that button on the right-hand side. And that's now going to make that banner ad available in this particular store. Well, now I'm concerned with what order it sorts in and some of the advanced controls. So in that case, I'm going to click on active advertisement. That's the middle-most tab. And here I have the ability to delete specific tabs. So let's say I want to nuke some of these because I'm going to sell 3 sponsored ad logos in this particular store here. So what I'm going to do, and by the way, what I like to do is just rapidly do this. I like to just hit return on my keyboard and hit return again, and it will delete those 3 advertisements without having to wait for the page to reload. So I'm going to add some advertisements, the miniature ads. So at the very top, your banners display, and I want to point this out. This creates a little confusion. At the very top, you'll find banners. And if you scroll past your banner ads, you will find thumbnail ads. So I'm going to go ahead and add your ad here because after all, I'm going to sell advertisements in this particular store. So I'm going to go and add those or add that selected advertisement to this particular store now. So we'll sell those little advertisement spots, and simple enough. So we'll wait for this page to reload. Now I'm going to go to active advertisements, and now I'm going to do things like delete. And again, here's what I was mentioning before. I'm impatient. I don't like for the page to reload. So I'm going to left mouse click on the red X to delete a banner and hit return rapidly and not wait for the page to reload. And it's going to automatically, with one page reload, it's automatically going to flush all of those banners. So you don't have to sit there and wait for each page to recycle to delete all those banner ads. So you can see how it successfully removed all of those. So now we have one miniature ad and one banner ad. So let's go back to the home page here and see what that looks like. And you can see that those changes are instantaneous. It's been done automatically. So here we have one advertisement here, and it says your ad here. One thing that I definitely recommend doing is linking your advertisements. This is a pretty big deal. So I'm going to click the back button here. Let's go right back to the advertisement settings. And what I want to do at this stage is I want to associate links to these banner ads. So oftentimes it's important to do things like tell people what to do. Click here to design your own custom t-shirt. Click here to design your own, banner. So oftentimes you want to drive action, and the best way to do that is to use little buttons, because what does this indicate? Well, this is clickable. So I'll actually provide some Photoshop files of some stock buttons they're available on many, many different websites. But anyway, it's important to put things like this, buy now. And so if that's clicked, notice this, it's going to open up a page. So I want people, when they see that advertisement, to do what? I want them to click to move on to buy Inksoft, because that's what the banner or the advertisement displays. Now you have the option, the controls, to do the very same. So the way that we'll do that is we're going to edit these banner ads. So notice we have the ability to delete, but we also have the ability to configure. So I'm going to click on this little wrench and tool icon, and here I have the ability to do a number of things. I can control the sort order. So if I want this to display first, I can go ahead and enter the display order. I can choose a date range for this banner to become active. And I can also choose a date range for this to become deactive, to turn it off automatically. So again, I can choose a start date and an end date. Now we can also overlay text. Now, if you've paid attention to any of our search engine optimization training, you'll learn that text is super, super valuable. So the more text that you can place onto your website, the better. So here I can put text on top of the actual banner, and then I can put text below the banner. So pretty important. Now we've also talked about the value of doing H1 text, header 1 text, which is really important for search engines. It tells them that this is important. So custom iPad cases, design your own iPad case online. Maybe that's a great search phrase. What I can do is make that very big and important. So what I could do from the paragraph drop-down menu is make this H1 text. Again, the purpose of this isn't to be pretty. The purpose of this is to attract the search engine. So I can assign a color to this. I can give it H1 text. The other text that's important is the ability to make something bold. Design your own iPad case now. So what I could do is go ahead and make this text bold, which means it stands out. So header 1 text and bold text are both valuable. Now we can also embed links into this. So notice if I go and highlight design your own iPad case now, and I click on this little, looks like a link icon, links of a chain, I have the ability to put in a link URL. So let's go back and grab this page from silkscreeningsupplies.com, and let's go and paste this right back into this link area. So let's go back to this insert link option, and I can choose a target. And a target is as simple as, when somebody clicks on this link, do I want them to stay in my page, or do I want it to open it in a new browser window? So typically, if you want somebody to stay within Inksoft, maybe you're saying design your own t-shirt now, click here. You want them to go to the Design Studio. Well, you would copy the link for the Design Studio page and place that. But maybe you're driving them to your blog, your Tumblr blog, or your WordPress blog, and you want them to go external. You can make that designation here. You could also give this link some description, and this is important for search engines. Custom iPad cases online. Design your own iPad case. So again, I'm going to go ahead and insert that into this particular banner ad. So now we have a linkable, bolded link in our file, and we also have custom H1 text. So we can do that on top of the banner or below the banner, and I'll go ahead and submit those particular changes. So now those are saved. Now, one other function that's really important in this environment is the ability to enable links. So you might want to have this banner linked entirely. So let's go back to this. Let's go to the thumbnail ad, since we already have a link associated in that main banner ad. So at the very top, you'll see it says show link options. And when I click that, I can do a number of things. I firstly have to enable the link at the very top. I could associate a discount code. So I could make this associated with a discount. So I can go ahead and select free shipping. Any discount codes you create will be accessible in this drop-down menu. And I can make this searchable. This is really important. Let's say somebody goes to your web store and they type in football. Maybe you want to greet them with a banner ad that says football uniform packages. We can, decorate your entire team, save with our packages. So again, you might want to insert advertisements when keyword searches are occurring. It's a great way to promote parts of your service and your business and your offering. So you can associate this to a discount. You can associate this to a search function. And we can put in keywords. So anytime somebody searches for football, football designs, football clip art, it's going to be accessible. Now here we can put a link. So I'm going to go ahead and select the link. And I have the ability to then paste in this link and make this either an internal or external. So by default, this link will be external, meaning it's going to open up a new browser window. If I want to keep it in this same web browser, I can go ahead and enable the internal link. That's going to be important when you want them to stay on page. So if you're promoting a product from the same web store, you're going to want to do an internal link. So we can go ahead and dial in that information. And once I'm done with that, we can, of course, submit those particular changes. So that, in a nutshell, is how you'll set up your banner advertisements and your thumbnail advertisements within Inksoft. So again, some of these changes take a little bit to reflect. So if I go and refresh my page, that might show up. It's not displaying now, but again, usually it takes a moment to cache and to update, so you can see those changes being displayed. So that is really the workflow of setting up a new store. I know we've talked about a lot today. And I want to think if I need to share anything else with you at this particular junction. Really the next two things that you want to consider if you happen to have skipped those in this store setup process is you want to start to consider what products would be appropriate. Now in this particular store, you can revisit it later. I'm going to leave this open as an example, but I'm actually going to create a product for an iPad case. And this is, again, why you want to use this screenshot software. You might want to go to iPad case, and you might need to find an iPad case. Maybe I'll put in blank iPad case. And this will let you find a thumbnail that's going to be useful for your product. So again, this is how I find appropriate product images. So again, I can look in here and find a white iPad case. So sometimes images aren't useful, Google Images. Other times other websites are useful. And I may choose to borrow a product as a way to showcase what these would look like. So again, you can use your screen capture software to get a large preview. So maybe I get a larger preview of this particular design, and then I can use my trusty screenshot software. I can go and grab this particular product and save that and use that within my Inksoft powered store. So you can see how that works. So again, the next step in this process would be to closely consider what products are going to be appropriate. And let me share with you how you will do that. Let's go back in time here to our store. What we can do is go to config, and we can go and cherry pick products. So now I have the ability to click on products, and I can click on add more products to this store. So again, we chose to add absolutely nothing to this store. Here's our featured products. So what I'm typically going to do is choose those featured products, and I'm going to go ahead and I can remove those from the particular store. I also have the ability to add more custom products. Now in this case, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to watch the tutorial on adding a new product into Inksoft. In this case, because we're working with custom iPads, and I have the ability to create a new product from scratch. So that would be the workflow to, say, bring in a iPad case right into the system. Alrighty, folks, it's right on the hour. I want to take a few of your questions before we disengage from today's web training event. Hopefully this has been insightful. If you have any questions, make sure to email us or reach out to our support team, and we'd be glad to share more insights with you. So go ahead and use the Q&A function in your dashboard, and I'll be glad to come back online and answer any questions you may have about setting up a Inksoft-powered web store.